Welcome to hell. What the hell just happened to me? I don't know. Anyways, welcome to race number 21 of Season 5 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to Satan's Challenge here at Inferno Pool Speedway, as we're getting set for 14 laps of racing here at this fairly short road course racetrack that we're going to be going to for the first time ever. I'm going to be very, very curious to see how this race is going to go, considering we're racing in hell, which is why the race is called Satan's Challenge. So basically from here on out, we're going to do away with the old 20-minute endurance concept, and we're just going to go back to running laps. So from here on out, no more 20-minute endurance timers. It's just going to be the set amount of laps, and that's how we're going to do it from now on. So before we take a look at the starting lineup, let's take a look at the point standings as they look coming into the race here today at Inferno Pool. So after last week at the Pensacola Roval, Joshua Collard's points lead shrunk significantly. He leads now by only 5 points over Carson Gum. Third is Dylan Jacobs, fourth Paul Minnick, fifth Benjamin Miles. Sixth is our pole sitter for today, James McLeod, seventh Dougie Shears, eighth Jake Rogers, and then a tie for ninth between Emmanuel Hartnett and Sean Galligan. So that is how the top 10 in the points look coming into the race today. And after the race today, there will only be 5 races left to do before the chase were to begin. So this race is going to be very interesting, to say the very least, not only because we're at a brand new track, but certain drivers are looking to gain some momentum going forward in the point standings as we get closer and closer to this season's chase. But let's take a look at the starting lineup. Starting in the last row, we have Joshua Sekuli and Carson Gum, teammates, and Carson Gum, who's up there in points, he's going to start way in the back. Top 10 in the lineup, as I stated earlier, James McLeod is on the pole for today, and this is his third pole this season. So now he has the season record this year for most poles, right now at 3. Not the overall record, but the season record right now. Anyway, second to him is Zachary Fitzwater. Row 2 is Ethan Hoffman, Kyle Matthews. Row 3, Seth Cole, DJ Curtis. Row 4, Charles Sanford, Alex Drayton. And then row 5, Ryan Butcher and Cody Lamas. With that said, let's go ahead and get the command to fire engines for Satan's Challenge here at Inferno Pool.
Drivers, start your engines!
Well, drivers are rolling on the racetrack for their half a pace lap, so to speak. Yeah, this track is quite ominous, not only because of its setting, but its lighting here as well. It's very red. As these drivers are getting ready to get this race underway, and right here is where the front stretch is going to be. Pace car is in pit road, and you all know what time it is. It's time to boogity 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 go racing! So James McLeod leads the first lap here today, here in Hell, a.k.a. Inferno Pool. And he only has a slim lead right now over second place being Ethan Hoffman. Now, I gotta tell you, this is gonna hopefully boost confidence for that 99 team, because Ethan Hoffman, like I've stated several times in the past, he is still the only driver this season to have not scored a single top 10 finish. And if he can keep the pace he's going right now, he'll be able to make that accomplishment happen, as he's right now in second here in the early going of this race. Seth Cole behind him. Seth Cole, he's trying to look for some momentum for himself, considering he ended up dropping a spot in points after last week at the Pensacola Roval. Same for Charles Sanford. Now, Sanford, he has been struggling pretty much all season long. In fact, he comes into this race 37th in the point standings. Not been a good season for that 03 team. Meanwhile, right behind him is his teammate Kyle Matthews. As Matthews, he's been on a roll over the course of the last few weeks. He's up to 12th in points, and he comes in 22 points behind that 10th spot in the championship standings. And he's looking to keep that momentum up in order to get into the top 10 in points and hopefully try and get himself to stay in there so he can make the chase this season. Zachary Fitzwater, on the other hand, he's kind of had an up and down year. Despite winning a race, he's 23rd in points, but he's still got some time to get some momentum on his side in order to try and get into the top 10. DJ Curtis, kind of in a similar situation as Kyle Matthews. He's actually had a solid season. He's just had a couple of bad finishes that has mired him back to 13th in points, but he comes in 27 points out of the top 10. And right now he's running fairly strong in 7th. James Shelley, who's right behind him, Shelley comes into this race 18th in points. After winning the Pensacola Roval last week, he moved up from 26th to 18th in points. And he's not too far behind that coveted 10th spot. In fact, he comes in 42 points behind 10th. He's still got plenty of time to try and make something work. And actually, he's going to go by DJ Curtis for that 7th spot. So good move on the part of the 71 car. Anthony McCrory, he's sort of been on a downward spiral this season. He's 29th in points, and doesn't look like he's going to be able, unless he were to somehow, someway get on a major roll, I don't know if he can make the chase. And then right behind him is 3rd in points, Dylan Jacobs, who's having another top 10 day going, and if he comes through, this would be his 8th top 10 this season. So he's had a lot of top 10s, but very few top 5s. Only 2 top 5s, one of them being a win. And I can't remember off the top of my head where it was that he won at earlier this season. As we're approaching the halfway point here in Satan's Challenge. Meanwhile, behind them, outside the top 10, you got Alex Drayton. Now, Alex Drayton's been a similar case to DJ Curtis, but perhaps not as known. But Alex Drayton has been another driver who's had a lot of good finishes, but he's had a lot of bottom 5 races where he ended up finishing in the bottom 5 and didn't get points. Right now he's having a solid run in 11th, and then behind him in the number's sake, 12th position in the 12 car, Chris Dollarton. Now Dollarton, he is on the outside looking in, but he's just barely on the outside. He comes in 31 points behind 10th, but he hasn't had a single top 5 finish this season. He's had only 3 top 10s. He's just been able to finish around here in the intervals pretty much most of the season, and that's what's made him somewhat consistent despite the numbers not really showing it. Oh man, look up ahead up here. 3 wide. And I believe that would be, yeah, that's for the 8th spot. Whoa, contact, and Dylan Jacobs actually got the wall a little bit. He ain't going to be too happy with the 61, and now that could cost Dylan Jacobs a top 10 finish. Because here comes Dollarton and Drayton as a result. Anyways, back to what I was doing. Dylan Thoreau, who was last scored 13th. He's been another one of those cases of having an up and down season, 22nd in points. And then Rafael Leduc, he's been somewhat cursed this season. It's like every time he starts to ascend up the ranks, something happens to him the following week where he either gets in a wreck and gets bottom 5 or just doesn't get the finish that he felt he should get. Right now, a solid run going in the 14th spot, now probably falling back a couple of spots as a result. And then behind him is the points leader, Joshua Collard. Now, let's actually take a look and see where Carson Gum is on the racetrack. 30th. He's actually moved up 10 spots on the racetrack, which is kind of impressive for him right now, considering where he started. As we continue to look around the field and see how things are shaping up. Here we may have a battle on for the 6th position. James Shelley working that back bumper of Zachary Fitzwater. Though Fitzwater managed to pull away just a little bit right there. Meanwhile, up ahead, Kyle Matthews trying to figure out a way around his teammate, Charles Sanford. And he's been working him over, it looks like, for the last few laps. He's been right there. It's just been a matter of timing a move if he's actually going to go for a move. And it looks like he's going to go for it now, and here he comes, and he's got a huge momentum push. As he's working underneath the 03 of Sanford, but now Sanford gonna perhaps get an advantage here, and now back to Kyle. It's like the S's right there in that particular spot on the racetrack. But Matthews clears him for the 4th spot, so that's more points towards getting into the top 10 in points for the 42 team. Meanwhile, back up here at the front, James McLeod has led every single lap so far, but he hasn't been able to pull away and go for a huge lead. He's kind of been stagnant at under 9/10 of a second ahead of Ethan Hoffman, so he's been fast, but not crazy fast. Although that last lap, McLeod was able to run faster than the 99. Let's actually see who's had the best lap time today. And it's ironically been McLeod at a 45.265, as it's now 2 laps to go here in Satan's Challenge, and a little bit of a push-up for the 51 as he managed to pull away a little bit on that lap, but not crazy amount of time right there. Meanwhile, Shelley has actually gotten around Zachary Fitzwater, and now Fitzwater is kind of under fire with Anthony McCurry and DJ Curtis, who are right there with him. And maybe even Dollarton as well, but actually Curtis trying to get around McCurry for the 8th spot, and he's actually, yep, he clears him. Good move on the part of the 4. Although McCurry trying to use the outside lane to get ahead, but not much is working, as the white flag is out here at Satan's Challenge, and McLeod still leads by just under 9/10 of a second over the 99 of Ethan Hoffman. Despite perhaps coming in second, Ethan Hoffman's going to be very, very pleased that he's going to finally get not only a top 5, but a top 10 this season. So you got to give it up for him, despite not being able to race up here for the win. As James McLeod getting ready to come out of the final corner, For the final time, checkered flag waving, first win of the season for James McLeod. He wins the Satan's Challenge at Inferno Pool. Domination on the part of that 51 Tweenix Racing Chevy. Started on the pole, was able to keep the lead despite not having a monumental lead. He still managed to keep his car up at the front and pull off his first win of the season. But let's look at the rest of the results. Ethan Hoffman, like I said, despite not being able to battle for the win, he's still got to be very pleased that he finally got a top 5 and top 10 at the same time for the first time this season. So that's going to be really huge for that 99 team. Seth Cole gets his second top 5 finish, finishing out in third today. Kyle Matthews finishes strong in the 4th spot. And then Charles Sanford, much needed a confidence boost to finish out in 5th. James Shelley continues his momentum as he gets a 6th place finish. DJ Curtis, great run in 7th. Zachary Fitzwater finishes out in 8th. Anthony McCrory with a 9th place finish. And then Chris Dollarton gets his 4th top 10 this season in the 10th spot. Then there's the rest of your top 20, top 30. In fact, Carson Gunn moved up 15 spots in that race and finished in 25th. Meanwhile, Collard 13th, so Collard more likely going to still be your points leader. And then there's the rest of the field. In the bottom 5 this week were Jessica Shelton, Trent Dunham, Dylan Poteet, Paul Minnick, and Dougie Shears. So the points are going to get shaken up quite a bit going into next week. And where are we heading to next week? Again, I don't know. But until then, here are your results, rookie points, and regular points heading into next week. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.